Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Block Party number 25. This is the 25th consecutive Block Party. And now we're kicking off in the series, and well, we're continuing with the series, the weekly series, A New Story for Humanity with Michael Gaio. And this week, Michael is going to take us on an exploration and a deep dive into the elements of collective intelligence. Ooh, Michael, take it away. Great to see you.
Great. Thanks, Jamin. Always good to see you too. Thanks for having me back. Good to be here. Wow, what a day. I've been so busy this week. I think we all are, but like literally I did a 17-hour day yesterday. And I've been averaging 14-hour days for the last 2 weeks, just on it. I love it. But I'm feeling a little bit burned out. That'll happen when you're pushing that hard. And this last conversation that was just happening, I came in about 10 minutes early and heard everyone here speaking about the purpose of romance, love and romance in the evolution of our species and the planet. And I think it is key because I'm reflecting on this because I'm the type of person who I love to create. I love to be focused and working and being really productive. It's one of my favorite things. I might be classified as like a workaholic or whatever, where I can be at times. And thank goodness, I think I finally crossed a threshold in myself sometime about last year. Someone brought this up in the last conversation where I feel like I finally came into some degree of coherent integration in myself that I then immediately manifested, a romantic relationship with my girlfriend here in Mount Shasta. And, it's qualitatively different than any relationship I've been in before. And there's a lot of romanticism there. And I can say, there's so much I could say about it, but I could say that a fundamental thing that's so different in my life now is that I feel like I'm able to even go further and clear into my own type of personal relationship I have with my work, with my art. I really call it my art, like everything I create. And just like I feel like if I could not sleep at all and just do that 24/7, I probably would like to do that. But I do have physical limits, and so also by having this partnership with this person who's also very different from me in a lot of ways, and as a slightly different species or branch of the human species, being a female, she also operates and thinks and feels differently than I do, and she has different priorities. She wouldn't want to work 24/7 all the time like this, and so it really it challenges me to really find that balance in my life. And it really works well because it pushes me to really enhance and optimize my time when I'm just on my own doing what I'm doing, my own relationship with myself and own relationship with my art. It helps, since I know that I need to balance it. I kind of want to get even more out of my own time by myself. So it really helps push me like that. And then when I'm not like that, I get to go and really nurture. Basically, there's a lot of nurturing going on. It really helps balance that out. And there's definitely something synergistic about it when I'm able to find that balance in myself. But it did take a lot of shadow work, for lack of a better word. A lot of years and years and years of really going. I don't even know what you want to call it. It's real stuff, real energetic stuff, and having to do that on my own, that then allowed for that synergetic connection to happen. And so it was perfect that we were talking about that earlier, and bringing it up again now. I think it extends nicely into a broader conversation that also includes what you were just talking about, Jamin. That there's a conversation about the conversation too. And I've been kind of feeling this lately too. Like even this last week when I was thinking about, okay, what topic do I want to bring to this Zoom meeting again this time? what am I feeling? You know, where can I feel like I could really contribute? Like what am I sensing? Like where are things going exactly with this conversation? And I've been thinking about this for a while of referencing, collective intelligence again at a deeper, more structural and organizational level, beginning to like seed that into the conversation at some point. Because it really has to do with, how are we relating with each other to synergize, not just in one-on-one romantic relationships, but to synergize collectively in bigger ways. So um, that's what I have intended on bringing today. Now, with that said, I have a kind of a clear vision of how to engage in that conversation around what I'm calling it is, the elements of collective intelligence. One way of saying it. What specifically are we talking about when we're talking about organizing our human collectives so that we can realize a greater degree of intelligence in how we be and act together and do together? What does that really mean? And I think, I'm wondering, where else is that happening in this conversation? Like the fact that what you're saying, Jamin, that organizational conversation is already happening. I'd like to hear more about that, like specifically about that, and also, is anyone else talking about this? Like, how are we approaching that? Because what's been illuminating for me is about a year ago, or maybe it's 2 years ago, Jamin, you came across this book. There's one particular reference I'm talking about. There's probably many references, but there's one particular book. I got it right here. Jamin sent this to me, actually. Big Mind by Morgan. Really good. Jamin sent this to me. I got the audiobook too. And I'm about halfway through it. I've been going in and out of it for a while, and I've got about 50 pages of notes. This is gold. This stuff is just really great. I've read several books on collective intelligence. There's another one here by Pierre Levy. Whoa, see it? Oh, there's the back.
One's holographic.
Yeah, let me shut off my background for a moment. Oh, what happened? Oh, there's none. Let's start with you. Here we go. This one by Pierre Levy. This is, I think, from the late 90s or early 2000s. A little more philosophical. Also, just fascinating. He's really on some good stuff. And this one's pretty good from a like design perspective. Here's another one where it went. But so far, this one though, Big Mind by Morgan, really good stuff. He's he really gets into detail about like almost like approaching it like, what's the science of it? Like what do we know about how when we bring people together to collaborate, what do we know about what works and what doesn't work? And what are some of the common assumptions, and what else can we learn about it? He just really starts examining this and breaking it down into like, various principles and elements and patterns and stuff like this. And it's really inspired me to take these notes, and I'm planning on creating a really condensed version of my research, both from Morgan's book and the other books I've done. I kind of want to make like a cliff notes of collective intelligence and collective coherency, because I think these two things are really coupled together. And kind of making a cliff notes of it, like a kind of like a pattern language book, like, here's the things kind of extracting the juice, the cream of it, and saying, here's the things we know, so people can kind of like digest it more easily. So that's what I'm intending on doing. And I actually had planned on having some form of that today, like even just like a one pager that people could look at and get some feedback on, and we could discuss what's there. But I was so busy today, I just wasn't able to even do that. So so I'm just flying off the cuff here. I'm just talking about this. But maybe by next week, I'll have that ready. But that's the conversation I'm interested in at this time. I've been thinking about it for a while, because I know, Jamie and I, have been having these conversations for a while, and the topic of collective intelligence has been much more prominent than I'm seeing it lately. Just that's, we're doing it, but to kind of have the meta conversation about what we're doing, and how we're organizing, and what principles and rules are we bringing to this. Aside from the collective coherency conversation we've been having recently too, that's absolutely relevant. I think even super fundamental, really. Those principles in science is also available. So with that said, I don't know where to open the conversation exactly. I meant to be more prepared and bring some talking points in. What do other people think? Like, has what I said so far sparked any insights or questions or avenues of discussion? Or I can possibly dig into my notes here and pull out a gem we could fumble around in our hands and dialogue
I have
about.
something.
Yeah.
I won't be able to stay for the whole session this time, so I might as well say something now. And I wasn't fully at the other planning session either, but I was thinking about it. They're like, what the overall purpose of coming together in this conversation is, and why do we want to have it for 24 hours and all of that. And like, I understand that one of the main purposes is generating this collective intelligence, and it's not just about sitting around talking for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. So how do we like make it really a vehicle to bring in collective intelligence rather than just sort of a chit chat session? And maybe connection is part of it, social connection, but to really have it fulfill that purpose, I think we kind of have to think about how to hone that, how to create a container that generates that. And I don't have all the answers, but I just wanted to pose that.
Yeah, very well said. Thanks, Dana. Very well said. That's what I'm feeling too. I think there's a difference between community and collaboration and collective intelligence. These things are different. I think they can be confused. I think community is important, and community is a huge need for all of us. And there's definitely something fulfilling and purposeful about establishing community, though a community does not necessarily result in more collective intelligence, not necessarily. So it's just good to have that clarifying conversations around, where does our community begin, and where does the culture of that community lead towards. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jamin.
So I have an idea, which is that it kind of seems like we're constantly trying to strive for this thing called collective intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. And we're kind of part of the way there, and we're getting further along, and we're getting further, but it doesn't seem like we're quite there, right? And so I want to create sort of a hypothetical comparison between like a textbook written sometime in the 1990s called Electric Cars, possibilities, limitations, and future, right? Versus along comes Elon Musk and Tesla and says, look, theory, great. We're going to actually build one, and here's what it is. And you can have any color you want as long as it's black, to quote Henry Ford from his first car, right? And this is what it is, or like the iPhone, it's just like, rather than go around and ask people what they want, just put it in their hands and say, here's what it is, and it transforms them. And my current iteration of the Tesla iPhone is the following: that we focus on eradicating hunger through the unity stew, mass production, mass distribution, and that creates a vehicle by which people buy in. Because, you know, a lot of the stuff we talk about brings in just, you know, kind of a niche audience here, a niche audience there, you know, but if you say, hey, we're here to feed everyone, right? And then you get a river of people pouring in, and then we start actually doing it, and then the intelligence generates results out there in the world, and we get the dialectic going, right, from this ivory bubble in the sky and the real world, which then draws in more people, which makes us more intelligent and more powerful generally, with more resources and more of everything, and boom, we're able to feed more people. So virtuous cycle. That's just kind of my latest thought as to how to actually break through with a Tesla that can be successful on the market versus, you know, back to you.
Yeah, that's fine. Though that's totally fine. I think that, you know, that project, ending world hunger, like also SRM, like 1,200 other projects I could list, could also be applied that way. So, you know, and that's to carry forward the analogy to Elon Musk and what he's doing. And again, he's got 7 or 8 projects, and they're all doing really well. And you could study how they, you know, it's not just Elon Musk. I think that the main principle of Elon Musk is he attracts other people who are smarter than him, that really know what they're doing well, like his business managers that know how to really organize people for optimal efficiency in production. That makes the key difference, you know. And so, and then those get applied to all his different companies or whatever. But also, you know, with the analogy of Elon Musk, I know that, you know, like for example, before he started SpaceX, which they're now launching rockets, like it seems like every week they're launching rockets for NASA or someone else, and they're just planning to go to Mars. Like they're just like really doing amazing stuff. They're basically opening the gateway to the next phase of human space exploration, which was, you know, the 1960s was the first phase with NASA and the Apollo missions. Now we're really are seeing the next phase starting right now. But what's interesting about that, it's so successful now, is because, you know, go back 10 years and Elon Musk was sitting in coffee shops doing what? Reading books on rocket science, literally. That's what he was doing, because he needed to, you know, get the particulars of the science of building rockets in order that he could then translate that outward into novel and innovative and disruptive patterns of behavior that then led to the enormous success of SpaceX, which disrupted the lethargy and inertia of the previous space paradigm. Wow. But he started with what? He started with a book of clarifying his own mind on here's how you do it, here's how you don't do it, right? Because there are ways that we were building rockets before that didn't make sense. They were old paradigm. People weren't willing to think. So I think that you know, like in your example, you know, in order to solve global hunger, you know, someone needs to sit down and really understand it. That's not me. Jamin or the other guy, Rashao, what's the other guy's name?
Dr. Silas Rao.
Yeah, I have not been in that conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not, and honestly, I already know, I know myself well enough that my passion and my purpose is not fully aligned with that enough that I want to participate. It could, like, I could get involved. I could probably contribute a lot just in general, but I also know that what I am aligned with so accelerates my energy, my passion, my inspiration. I want to keep aligned with those things. So like, you know, and I think other people will feel the same way. Some people are going to be really attracted to veganism and solving the hunger issue or SRM. So I think that's also part of the conversation. Like there's a meta conversation around collective intelligence to be done too. Because if we try as a community to all get on board solving global hunger, when maybe the whole community isn't fully aligned with that.
Can I clarify?
Yeah, I know I'm just kind of also clarifying, you know, the meta conversation around it. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, so actually, I'm definitely not suggesting that everyone drop everything else you're doing and let's all just focus on hunger. I'm sort of seeing the hunger dialectic between the conversation and the real world as a form of starter motor. The car is not the starter motor. The starter motor is the starter motor. But it provides a very important function. And even in parallel with the starter motor doing its thing, all these other conversations can be happening in parallel. Like last Friday, we had 3 breakout rooms happening at once. You were in one, you led one of them, Michael.
Great work.
And so it's simply that. It's just that sort of killer app. You don't buy the computer just because of Lotus 123, but Lotus 123 got you to buy the computer. And then once you bought the computer, you started using it for all kinds of other things. Yeah. And just as the vision of reusable rockets and this next generation's space exploration and travel and all that good stuff, that brought together a bunch of scientists, frustrated rocket scientists, right? Who shared elements of that vision. And so this Elon Musk brought them all together. I'm suggesting that the conversation can bring together all the people who are frustrated by the fact that we have emaciated 3-year-old girls starving to death, and and that we finally get together and do something about it. So it creates this nucleus, this starter motor. And again, I think it's that thing, that singular thing that just needs to happen, because anyway, for lots of reasons, but there's just the universality of it. So many people will get drawn into that, and we need numbers in order for us to get to the next stage of collective intelligence travel. We need numbers, and we need a bunch of meetings in parallel, and we need hyperconnectivity between them, and we need search, and we need agreements, and we need a whole bunch of foundational stuff to make this work. And I'm saying that hunger gives us that concentration of people who are just willing to come in and just play and are flexible. And then we can mold this growing lump of clay into a broader, into a real solid working form of collective intelligence that can then be applied to a whole bunch of other things in parallel, which is, of course, the idea.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I think it's probably a better focus for that even better than, not that SRM is not better, but hunger is so fundamental to all of us. And it's the foundation, like the foundation of a house. So yeah, sounds like a good application. Now, I'm just curious, like, what's the plan for that? Like, how does that begin? Meaning not solving hunger itself, meaning, again, and I'm trying to get some resolution myself on like I've, there's so many conversations happening here. I guess we're doing multiple days now. I don't even know everyone else that's presenting or what they're talking about. What's the resolution on that? On I'd be curious if if I could see a list of every person that's kind of consistently in these conversations. I don't even know what that list is, and what their primary interests are, and what percentage of them are that committed to get involved with the Hunger Project. Just curious.
Yeah, well, we've got a really great sample right here. This room is full of diehards, right? Of conversation. I mean, serious diehards, the folks who keep the fire lit late at night and all that stuff. So this is a great sample. So I would just invite folks around the room to jump in and share. Yes, Marco.
Yeah, I think today is, and I put it right when I came in the room, as a perfect example of collective intelligence working. I've got some problems that I'm dealing with here and really have me stressed out. So I kind of crashed and burned, and I wasn't up on time. But still, the important planning that was happening between 1 and 3 today still went on. And all I have to do is, now that I'm conscious again, is just connect, suck it up, and it moved forward even though I'm not here for that part of the time. So that's, to me, that's the collective intelligence working.
Yeah, and the last half hour of that meeting, I had to take a break and take care of some personal stuff, and the meeting went on. So that's the whole idea of, that's part of the 24/7. Part of the 24/7 is just to create a really consistent landing zone that people just hear the message. It's open all the time. That in and of itself is a unique marketing attribute, right? And there's a dual purpose here: heal Mother Earth while healing thyself, right? So if it's 4 a.m. and you wake up and you're depressed and you're suicidal, come here. We'll help you out. We'll help you get you sorted out, and you can help the community sort out the planet. And I can encapsulate the food thing, if you want, in literally like 3 minutes, because it's actually very tight and super easy to understand. It's the kind of thing that when you get it, it's like, why the hell hasn't anyone done this before? And you're going to see how it's going to proceed like an avalanche. It's just going to go berserk and get copied all over the world. We're just going to open source it, and people are just going to start replicating. I mean, it is that, frankly, just excruciatingly obvious once you see it. Go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, one more thing I might point out, that as opposed to what Facebook could have been, the start to collective intelligence, but it's the turning into the start of collective beating up on each other. Here we are, CC, compassionate certified.
It's a great point. It's actually true. Morgan talks about this in his book. There's kind of a general assumption out in our world that if you just get people together and connect them and network them, that the result is going to be productive and more intelligent. And it's not true. It's not true at all. And Facebook is a great example of that. Facebook's actually, I think there's a lot of benefit in there that maybe people take for granted, that we just gotten used to, but it seems to be dumbing down. Yeah. And definitely holding a lot of people back. And definitely, it's definitely detrimental in a lot of cases, unless you're super self-disciplined with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make, that you just have to be disciplined to get the good out of Facebook and ignore all the stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
Sophie's got her hand up, and I was going to answer the question for you, Sophie, about SRM, right?
Marco did. Thank you, Marco. Now I know what you're talking about, because you use that word. I'm like, what does it mean? Social? So I'm like just trying to find the meaning of it. But yeah, Marco helped me out, and then Dana helped me out, and Jimena helped me out. So yeah, it's just I went from this vision of now I can see what it is that you're, yeah. So my interest is emotional intelligence in the aspect of the collective intelligence. I did share with, I think most of you were here a couple days ago, since Marco brought up Facebook, what happens when an amazing technology is put in the hands of emotionally challenged children, right? What the practice of unhealthy emotional intelligence looks like. So my dilemma lately, and why I'm so excited about the conversation and this platform, is this: that I don't want to partake in this game anymore. I don't want to partake in feeding the beast and feeding the monster. And in a way I am, because I'm still using the platform. So my main interest is that how do I exit out of this platform and have a coherent platform that is run by a collective intelligence that can come and replace the one that is currently being used. So that's my my main interest and my inspiration, and the way, we talked yesterday about, keeping the fire lit for now, and this is what is required. And I got to experience that firsthand yesterday. We got together, there was a host that was committing to keeping the space, and something happened with the host, and the host disappeared, and I wasn't meant to be here for a minute, and I ended up being here for 5 hours. So that was my way of stepping into and embracing the collective intelligence that we're trying to build in just this very mundane and small task that it is now to keep the fire lit. So so my main interest is that right now is I'm in between this, especially when I speak of emotional intelligence, is how do I continue supporting a platform that has been shown to practice everything but emotional intelligence to something that is going to catapult me into a space that is where the main goal is to practice that, right? And to not only to practice it, but to model it, to inspire more of it, and blah, blah, blah. So that was my 2 cents on that.
Beautiful. I think this is super valuable. More sharing from those of us here, you know, about what this means to us and why we're here and what we envision, what we dream of.
Yeah, I'm reading your comment, Dana, and I completely agree with you. And that's why I say I don't want to demonize the platform itself, because I think the platform was given to us for a very specific purpose. And I think it's a great platform of what it represents and how it connects us. However, because there is a lack of awareness of how the platform is being manipulated, is what we've ended up using it for now. And it's very, and for me, it's been very disheartening, because I never used to be on that platform. And I specifically came on it a year ago to build my business. So I didn't partake into what was happening. And so that's why it's not the platform itself, but how the platform is being created and what it has shown to repeatedly do. Yeah, I think do is the right way to say it lately, which is the censorship, the bias, the emotional manipulation, and all of that. And of course, we're partaking in that. So I completely take responsibility for being part of it. But so it's not, I don't want to demonize the platform itself, but where it is now, when after 10 years of using it in the hands of wounded children, basically, who don't have the ability to listen, who don't have the ability, I see your hand, Jamin, and don't see the ability to listen, don't have the ability to communicate in a healthy way, in an empowered way. And so this is where I'm at with it.
I wanted to make a quick comment. Sophie, I want to ask you permission to leverage what you just said as an example of a refinement on collective intelligence, the process itself. Okay, so you referenced something that Dana had written in the chat, and you're talking about a platform. I didn't know what you were talking about, and my options were to go back in the chat and try to read, but I'm trying to listen to you at the same time. And so I kind of felt like you were just talking with Dana and I was kind of out of the conversation. It's just a little feedback, but these are the kinds of polishing and finishing touches. So Dana, in your chat, I want to quote, and it would just see, then it takes 10 seconds, you read the quote, and then everybody's with you. You see what I'm saying? So bring us all along with you. That's just an example of a refinement. Peter, I saw you had your hand up, and we're just in this wonderful space of sharing. What is collective intelligence to us, et cetera?
Thank you so much, Jamin. I just wanted to say, thank you for pointing that out, because yes, I completely bypassed that very important step. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. I've been listening, and it's a beautiful exploration. And Michael asked, who's here and what are other people feeling? And I guess I just wanted to chime in there a little bit too, because what has become crystal clear to me through a series of Jamin doing these 24-hour calls, and then me watching what happened with the Good of the Whole, where they now have over 12 hours a day, 7 days a week of Zoom calls, and more programming, but Zoom calls. And then World Unity Week, where we had 20 different rooms full of Zoom calls happening simultaneously. It just became clear, and Jamin came in for some of those, and it was just like, there's just no need to stop. It's just too easy. And of course, Jamin had already experienced not stopping for one day, and he's like, yeah, it's you just pass the host to the next person, and you go to bed or whatever you need to do. And so we just said, well, let's just do it. Right? Because what became clear to me too was that we're shifting from guru student, we're shifting from content coming at you and you being this passive listener, to this collective intelligence that says all of us can put our wisdom into the same bucket here and come up with so much more. That conversations make that happen, and that the now, I can't even find myself going back and watching a video of something that happened more than a day or two ago. It's just like I had no interest whatsoever, right? And now it's like I know I can plug into a current conversation right now with wise people that I've now formed tribe with. It's like in a heartbeat. I'm hanging out in Nicaragua and Nevada and Washington and Mexico City and right, England, and Marco's in Wisconsin, and the gal earlier was in the Netherlands, right? And I've got this global group of friends with all different perspectives. And so I am being collectively intelligentized in the present moment with every conversation, or just putting it on to listen in the background while I'm doing everything else. And I know a lot of people do it that way. And sometimes I'm like, come on screen and talk to us. But I know the other side of it too. It's like, well, I'm actually making lunch and fixing something, and I'm still in my pajamas or whatever, right? That it's just beautiful to have playing in the background more than anything else I could want playing in the background. And so that's what's percolating for me, and how we dared to just jump in, and we instantly got 12 hours worth of people, 12 hours a day, every day worth of beautiful people to say, I'll hold space. And we haven't even started yet, right? I mean, this was the beta thing, just went straight to 12 hours. And now we've got several people saying, I want more than 12 hours. And pretty soon we'll get the Australian and the other folks, and we'll be 24. And all these other groups now, Michael, are wanting to do their after parties on the conversation. And I've been lining these up, and we've got a couple coming up next week on the 5th and the 8th. And then coming up after that, all these peace events are happening starting in late August and all through September. And most of them want to have their participants have a chance to be in communication with each other. And many of these programs are still lost in the, we're just going to give you 6 hours of content and then let you free to do whatever it is you're going to do, right? It's like, here, buy my book, see you later, right? But that's just no longer it. And so I'm urging them all to have conversation sections within their program, but then pre-event conversations, and then post conversations that go on forever. And it's just beautiful to watch these people's eyes glaze over and then kick in and go, oh my God, I guess that would be good if the 500 people who are coming to this event now all of a sudden want to communicate with each other and activate each other and jump up and down. So that's what's going on for me in relation to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just on that really quick, because I got to go. Tomorrow is Global Coherence Day, put out by the Global Coherence Pulse, and the whole month of August is Global Coherence Month.
Yay.
And I was thinking we could have some initiatives in this room, some conversations and activities connected to Global Coherence Month, the month of August. So that might be a fun thing to think about.
Yeah, certainly. What's happening specifically tomorrow?
It's a whole day of global coherence. It's called Global Coherence Day. So a whole day to recognize global coherence. And they're having 3 different pulses, one in the morning, one in the early afternoon, and one in the early evening. Mm-hmm. And each one has different presenters and scientists. And Roland McCready is going to talk in the first one, along with Teresa Collins and Claudia Wells and a few others. And there's always music part of each one as well. And then Nassim Haraman is going to be speaking in the second one with the Resonance Project and the Resonance Science Foundation. And then the last one is more about artists, hardists, they call them, like artists, music, and everything. So, and then in between, they have a few what they're calling after-party conversations hosted right now by something else called the Global Coherence Hotspot or something. So they are having a few optional interactive sessions. I did write to Claudia Wells yesterday to see if, she wanted us to host optional conversations, interactive sessions afterwards, like in the evening or something. And I didn't get an answer, but it doesn't mean we can't do it. Like whether it's formally on their website or not, we can still, engage and have that as a topic. And
Right.
Anyway, unfortunately, I have a class. I gotta go. So
what's the URL for that cohesion tomorrow?
Oh, look up Global Coherence
Initiative?
Both?
Oh,
I don't have the actual.
Yeah, I have it right here. I can.
oh, that's
put
right.
it
I
up.
saw this
Just
one.
come right up, and then you can register for that event.
Got it.
Thank you, Dana. Way to go on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, thank you,
And
Dana.
Dana also was co-host for the 10 days that we did of after events for the global harmonic or the harmonic convergence, which was really what kicked this whole thing off.
Yeah.
We did 10 parties in a row with that. And Dana did an excellent job of co-hosting that. And so what I expect is going to happen, just like is happening here, it's just too easy to have your own ongoing call. That other groups are going to start doing these ongoing calls, but until they're ready to do 12 hours or 24 hours a day, maybe they have a 4-hour after party, but then it's like, hey, we did our 4-hour after party and that was really great, but we don't have the manpower or whatever to keep going. Can we send them to you for the forever party? Right? And so then they'll end up sending them to us after their after parties. And I suspect that will be very popular in September and October and on into the future.
Great. Wow, my mind is going in like 17 different directions at once.
Thank
Trying
you.
to keep it coherent.
No, thank you. And
Yeah.
here's the beautiful thing is none of us have the picture of the whole, right? Each of us has whatever part or perspective, like the 7 blind dudes groping the elephant, right?
Right.
And we're just talking about what we're feeling. We're
Yeah.
talking about what we're feeling, and collectively we're making sense of it. Anyway, I'm going to shut up because I want to hear more sharing. And after everyone's shared, I've got some juicy tidbits of my own to share. So going on mute.
Anyone else want to share?
Share.
Hey, Marco, I'd love for you to share more about how the late night part is. Marco's been holding down the late night session, and I'd love to hear more about just how that goes in the wee hours.
Yeah, thank you, Marco and Sophie and Jimena and Christopher and Linda. I mean, the late night crew. Goodness, you guys are just wonderful. Go for it.
Yeah, the last few nights, there's been a lot less of me and more of my collective intelligence out there, because I've been starting to burn out and have some personal family issues that are draining on me. So, but it still goes on. It happens, and we get to meet such unique people, like from the Philippines and Chile and other parts of the world that come in. Sophie's a good example of that. It's just awesome. And they do engage here, but also people are contacting me on Facebook, like Nisha, who's currently in London now, and he said he's had contact with Jamin because of the late night thing. So it's just really this fabulous actualization of the collective intelligence growing and working.
It reminds, we often break into music, which seems to be a really nice kind of both lubricant and romantic injection, right? Some people go in for a cortisone injection. Let's go for a musical injection. So I'm reminded of the Billy Joel song from the 80s, Say Goodbye to Hollywood. So many faces in and out of my life. Some will last, some will just be now and then. Life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. I'm afraid it's time for goodbye again. Say goodbye to Hollywood. Say goodbye, my baby. Right? It's a sad song. It's about separation. It's about goodbye, and it's about, the very temporary, fleeting nature of Hollywood. Imagine taking the negative photograph of that song, and it's like, say hello to the family you never knew you were always longing to get reconnected with. That's us. Meet, hairy, smelly Uncle Jamin. Hi, except you don't have to smell him because it's a safe space, right? Anyway, I'm trying to be comical, but it's say hello to that community. And see, once you get connected to it and you start to see it forming, right? We're like, the first tinkerer is trying to create the first wheel and the first cart on wheel. And, we can envision it. We're working out some of the friction points, but we're almost there. That's really important to recognize, right? We're almost there. I sometimes make the analogy that it's important to know at what point in the football game are you, right? And I feel like we've made such exponential progress lately, and we're getting such great foundations laid and such clear visions that it's almost like we're deep in the fourth quarter and we're, 27 points ahead. We basically just have to sit on the ball for a few more nights and this thing will hatch. Pardon the multiple analogies at once. Going on mute. Everyone cheers. Just kidding.
Yeah, I want to reference something from my notes from Morgan's Big Mind book, where he defines collective intelligence, looking at the etymology of the words. So intelligence is from interlegere, French or Latin or whatever. It means to choose between, to differentiate things. I think that's one of the fundamental elements of any intelligence, whether it's human intelligence, artificial intelligence, collective intelligence. A fundamental quality of intelligence is to make differentiations, right? That's what the brain is doing. It's just looking at everything that's different and how they're associated, at all scales possible that it can possibly go. So to choose between, to discern, to know which path to take, who to be with, what to do, what not to do. That's intelligence, fundamentally. And then collective is from colleger, which is to choose together. That's the etymology of the word collective, to choose together. So collective intelligence, I think one of the most basic or most fundamental qualities is to know which way we're going as a collective. And I'm reminded of one example I often reference when describing what collective intelligence is a beehive. And one way a beehive works is that say there's a hive in a tree out in the forest, and the tree is sick and it's kind of starting to lean and it's going to fall. And the bees know this. They kind of figure out, oh no, our tree's starting to tip over. We better do something. What do we do? Well, let's go make our hive somewhere else. And so the message goes out to all the bee workers and the drones and all that. The queen sends out the message. Go forth the bees and find us a new home. So all the bees fly out into the wilderness and they go in all different directions. And they go out and they're gathering data, and they know what to look for. They know, don't build a beehive near the waterfall. Don't build a beehive near the volcano. This altitude, that altitude. Don't do it by the bear dens. This kind of thing. And so they find, and then they all come back, and they all come back to the hive, and they're all sharing their data. And I guess scientists have studied this process, and the bees actually they do these little dances on the hive. Like like a bee will come back, and all the other bees kind of gather around it, and the bee will do this little like butt wiggle dance, And there's it's even encoded with like the direction and the distance that this location is at, and then there's probably some codes in there about like the quality or bear or no bear or whatever. And so all the other bees watch this, and then somehow we don't still fully understand it, but like all the bees are doing this and all the bees are watching, and then over time there's actually some kind of a computational process that happens, kind of like what happens in the brain. It's like it's all this data just kind of filters through the hive, and eventually it coheres, and the hive goes, okay, it's over, the best option is that way, that distance. And so they all go together as a singular organism. They make a collective decision, unified, not going off in two different directions, unified, and they go that direction. That's an example of collective intelligence. And, when it comes to the human species, we've had this advent called democracy for a while, the voting system, which, is a good try, a little bit outdated at this point, but aside from that, aside from democracy and voting, which is, is kind of working, kind of not working. Is it working? I don't know. Kind of slow. We vote every year, every 4 years, and it's on paper and pencil. It's just like so archaic. I mean, we have such amazing technology now. We can really evolve the democratic process and remove so much centralization from it and secure it and all this. It's totally doable. But I think that's the fundamental element, is that we need to be able to, like, just in real time know what we're talking about, and then just like execute. Here's my little butt wiggle dance, done. And then it all compiles, and it's just like, oh, there, now we know we can trust the process. The high is going that way. Let's all go for it. So I think that's a fundamental element of what's coming. Yeah, Jamin.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention this juicy tidbit from Wednesday night. So Wednesday night, I had a big inspiration. And this for me is one of the richest examples of what this is, what the conversation is. You know how, like, often you'll get some great idea at night, and you'll sit and you'll write and you'll write and you'll write, and you'll kind of wish you had your friends there with you could share it with, but it's kind of late at night and no one else is awake, or, you don't want to bug anybody. And it's like, okay, well, that's too bad. Well, after I got the flash of inspiration, I said, wait a second, I got my peeps here. Because the conversation was happening, thanks to Marco and Sophie and Linda and Christopher, and whoever was here. And so I just jumped in. Hey, Jamin's here. Hey, what's up? What's up? Where everybody knows your name. And so suddenly I'm getting this Cheers-like boost, right? And they're like, what's up, Jamin? I was like, oh my goodness, I got the biggest inspiration. Do you guys mind if I record? Yeah, go for it. Go for it. So I record. And we just start jamming. And that's what went out in the email Wednesday night, Thursday morning, technically, because it was late. If you wanted to see the recording of what we recorded Wednesday night. But the bottom line is, we're kind of like, we've basically become the Tesla of food. And I'm the self-proclaimed Elon Musk of food, redefining food. And in a nutshell, Michael, I'm just asking that you get ready to have your mind blown, okay? Because I'm going to give you the 3-minute nutshell of it, right? Since I don't see any other hands up, okay? Just give me a thumbs up if you're ready to have your mind blown, Michael. Okay, good. With your glasses cocked like that, it kind of looks like you got your mind pre-blown or something like that.
It is. It's already blown.
I love it. Okay.
Already blown.
Okay, Peter has to go, and he appreciates it. Thank you, Peter. Love you, bro. Come back when you can. And let's see. So here it is. I'm just going to give you one example of the cost of food, old paradigm cost. So most of this is just old paradigm. There isn't really a lot of new paradigm here. I'm taking old parts, and we're taking old parts and putting them together, okay, in a new way. And there's two parts of the economics and put the two together and your mind is going to be blown forever. The first part is cheaper by the dozen. And the second part is donut economics. And they're both totally simple. Okay. Let me just tell you the example of lentils. You like lentils, right? Of course. You love
lentils. Yeah.
Listen, we went searching and said, okay, what would it, how much would it cost if we bought a truckload of lentils, 40 tons of lentils? What does the price per pound work out to? 6.5 cents, US dollar cents per pound dry lentils, which you have to dump, several liters of water into, and it, puffs up to several pounds of cooked lentils, probably about 6.5. What does that mean? Your cost of a hot bowl of cooked lentils is 1 penny per pound. A big bowl is a pound of cooked lentils. Food cost 1 penny. That's how mind-boggling this is. Food is expensive because of capitalism and branding and packaging and rebranding and break and bulk and this and that and da-da-da-da and Costco memberships and everything else, right? That's what makes it. Food is artificially expensive. It does not have to be. Okay. So next, so that's the cheap and net, you work it out. The richest, most delicious, most nutritious plant-based stew with full spectrum nutrition and everything is going to work out to about 6 or 7 cents per pound cooked and delivered. We're basically talking about doing to food what John D. Rockefeller did to oil. Mass produce it, mass distribute it in the most efficient way possible. We're going to have food on tap, but the tap's going to be connected to the food delivery truck. So that's the first half. Cheaper by the dozen, cheaper by the megaton. And we're going to be producing megatons of food. The second half is called donut economics. And you might have heard the story, Michael. It might have been written up in Freakonomics or something like that, where a gal in San Francisco brings a box of donuts into the office, puts it in the kitchen, and just puts a jar next to it. You know, if you want to contribute to the donut fund, you know, drop your money, but you don't have to, just grab a donut. So just generosity and trust, automation, a jar that sits there. That's a robot that takes your money. And it turned out at the end of the day, the amount of money that people stuffed in the jar exceeded the cost of the donuts. What did she then do? She went and started a business. She went around to all the bunch of offices in downtown San Francisco, you know, Market Street, you know, it's all walking distance, and got permission and did that and made money. Now, apply that same principle to stew. We're going to be giving away the stew, give it. Of course, we accept donations. That's how we buy the 40-ton truckloads of lentils and brown rice and potatoes and carrots and onions and all the other good stuff. Okay, so put those two together, and what we've got is a perpetual motion machine that actually is profitable. Humanity is going to be so freaking impressed with food on tap for everyone, delivered to everyone with no exceptions, all around the world, right? In Manhattan, our food costs are probably going to be, I don't know, like literally tens of thousands of dollars per day. Wait a second. Yeah, tens of thousands of dollars per day to feed 1 million people. I mean, incredibly cheap. And the amount of donations we're going to get is going to be probably millions of dollars per day. So the Manhattans of the world will fund the Somalias of the world. Somalia, they just need and need, and they don't have any money to donate. And we'd probably refuse it anyway, you know, though they'll be so grateful. They'll give whatever pennies they have. But again, we'd probably refuse those from the very poor. And so this thing will be a perpetual motion machine of expansion. It'll go viral. We'll start it here and in Arizona, and it'll just go viral. It'll be a story that'll generate more money than it consumes. And we could use the profits to fund SRM. Imagine we've used the profits to fund SRM. We're just raking in billions in profits, and we fund SRM. Guess what, Mike?
4 minutes.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. So all of this constitutes a new form of governance. We fed the people, we cooled the planet so that we could keep growing food, and nobody had to be elected. And in fact, no money had to be raised, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, that's the big idea. This came out of collective intelligence, years of collective intelligence. And that's what Tesla's doing. They're just constantly refining it. There's no end to the evolution of it, as you've studied. Well, the same thing is going on here with food, thanks to a whole bunch of people coming in. Going on mute.
Well, yeah, and I wonder, so it sounds great, Jamin. It's making me hungry. I think I'm going to need to go get lunch soon. Lentils especially, such good brain food. I think that lentils, I read this a long time ago, it's one of my favorite foods. They're really high in their ability to translate into acetylcholine. I think that is. I think it's the right neurotransmitter, which is the primary neurotransmitter in the brain. So if you're ever feeling like you've just been thinking or studying so much and you want some good brain recharge, lentils does the brain really good. Yeah, you can literally feel it. The brain starts buzzing. Yeah, so, you know, I think, you know, another thing that Morgan talks about that I've been thinking a lot about too is this idea of meta intelligence. And, you know, this is probably what they have going on inside the Tesla organization and the SpaceX organization, all these like they're moving so fast, and they're, like you said, they don't get lazy at all. They're constantly innovating and leading by innovation rather than marketing. They're not sitting on their bank accounts. They just put everything forward again and again and again to accelerate their progress. And inside their management, they're just constantly optimizing on it. So you got to know they probably have some really tight teams in the center who are just managing that. Just managing what we call the meta intelligence, which is the intelligence about thinking about how the whole thing is being intelligent. Because I think, with what I just talked about with the fundamental element of collective intelligence, I think is just the ability of a group or organization to make collective decisions together. But that's just the fundamental element. That's just coming from the definition of the words. It's not, I think there's more than one type of intelligence or expression from an organization like that. And, with an organization like that, I think it helps to have, kind of a core central processor that's, so to speak, that's also keeping track of the different types of intelligence that are happening in the organization. That makes sense. Just that one step of meta,
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's, in our case, that's the meeting we had from one, just before this one, 1 to 3, where we're, having that meta level and saying, okay, what do we need to be collectively intelligent, right? And then, for example, for the food thing, what I'd love to have is, and this will probably happen soon after we hit 24/7, is that we'll have a breakout room that's just dedicated to food.
Mm-hmm.
So new people come in, hey, I'm here for the food thing. Yep, go breakout room 1, go, right? And then this remains the campfire, the central hub to make such choices for anyone who comes in. Where do I go? Including, by default, just hanging out here and just hanging and just feeling the energy. It's like if you arrive in a new city and you go to some hotel, you might just hang out in the lobby just to get a feel for the energy of the place. Not just the hotel, but the city, right? And so the hub plays a really important role on so many different dimensions, right? And this is part of just designing it and doing it. We're just saying, look, we're going to have a hub and spoke. And the first main spoke is going to be food. And the next one is SRM. And the next one after that is permaculture, and then, or whatever, and on and on and on. Right? I mean, another made hub, and here's where it can get self-referential, which gets to your point of meta-intelligence, Michael. We might have, one of the spokes might be sociocracy, or simply democracy, right? Where they talk about the different forms of democracy and which one, or ones, plural, we want to implement here, right? Another one could be on finance. Do we want to create our own cryptocurrency? Do we want to do, a GoFundMe kind of thing, et cetera, right? Do we want to cross-pollinate between food and the others, or do we want to keep food separate? So there can be all these meta-level conversations happening all the time. Right now, this one is happening kind of front and center because it's the only conversation happening in the network at the moment, right? So, we're designing as we go, but it feels to me like the appropriate level of design is really only designing for the next few weeks. Like a car driving down the road, only worry about the next 100 meters, right? At night, that's all you can see anyway. And things are so unpredictable in this space because at some point there's just going to be waves of either consolidation or integration or hyperconnectivity between the different communities, as Peter was talking about earlier, right? So how do we plan for that? So it's like, it feels to me like, whereas a couple of years ago, we were still kind of in the realm of theory, right now we're like on the market with Teslas that are being bought, and some are coming back because there's some defect we didn't know about, and it's like we're in it now, right? We're not just talking about it, we're doing it. So that's super exciting, right? We're doing collective intelligence in a community that's open to everyone, and so it's like we're kind of like Tesla in a sense. I mean, if Facebook is General Motors, we're like the early startup Tesla, where we're very focused on the technology, on doing it right. We're not particularly focused on marketing ourselves, right? We're like really R&D focused, really tech focused. right?
Good.
Constantly reinventing ourselves, constantly figuring out what to focus on and how to, you know, divide and conquer, when to divide and conquer and how, et cetera, et cetera.
Great.
As we become a new species, as we transition through the shades of gray of the chrysalis phase, right, towards butterfly. We're all praying for liftoff. We're waiting for liftoff. We're designing liftoff. We're envisioning it, right? We're running for president based on liftoff scenario XYZ, you know. And so it's like we have this sense of, you know, I used to have the sense that, oh, you know, what we're doing is the center of everything and it's the most important thing. And, you know, increasingly I'm realizing we're but one of many networks out there that are eventually going to all come together. And we're kind of more focused on that coming together perhaps than the others, right? That's probably not a fair statement. A lot of them are focused on coming together.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we have our particular way of focusing on it. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a kind of a combination of us, you know, just doing our own thing, whether that's food or whether it's collective intelligence or block parties or whatever, doing our own thing, and also at the same time doing outreach. And Peter is extremely skilled at outreach, and he just like thrives on outreach, right? So we've already got this kind of nice, kind of natural, you know, divisions of responsibilities that are starting to emerge. And like, sorry, Danny and Bridget, neither of whom are here right now, both of whom are powerhouses, put together this great document on our agreements, a Google Doc. They just took it upon themselves, did it, and came back and said, here, right? Likewise, we needed a way to do scheduling and this and that. Summer Rose, who's not here at the moment, I think you hung with her last week, Michael. She said, look, here, I just set up a doodle poll for the month of August, just here, boom, right? And so increasingly, we're articulating what we need, and then what we need just kind of lands. Some stork drops it, and we catch it. You know, the stork is the collective intelligence. But Wednesday night, oh my goodness, what an experience to know that there's a place where you can go with your best ideas and just get them sunlight and water and nutrients and just intensive care, right? During that snowflake phase of its existence, when it might otherwise just melt into nothingness, right? So we take snowflakes and turn them into snowballs. But we also weed out the bad snowflakes, the ones that shouldn't evolve into snowballs, just because, you know, like, oh, I know how we can make a bunch of money selling food, right? That's not the point. Giving away food is the point, and making that not just sustainable, but avalancheable, exponential. And we've found the way to make it exponential, right? But again, it's because of how we're coming at it. And we also had to refine how are we coming at it. And you only know that it's right when you've talked it through with everyone, and we've looked at it from different angles. Yes, Michael. Oh, yeah, it sounds like you need a little break. That's cool. Take your time. And you know, and everyone's had their say, and you know, we've evolved it over the course of perhaps a series of conversations until we finally get it right. And then it's ready to implement. So it's just this kind of like incubator accelerator from ideas to solutions. That's kind of how I see this. Love to hear other people's thoughts. Going on mute. Hey, Michael. Yeah, so I was just saying how this, for me, it's just like the ultimate from incubator, and it's like an incubator / accelerator of taking ideas through their stages of evolution all the way to implementation, because we've been talking about food now for years, several years, well over 5 years, 6 years on these video conferences. And we finally hit on the model, right? you know, I mean, just think about, like, for example, Twitter. When they finally launched Twitter, the program itself could have been launched with probably just like a few pages of code, right? It's not like some massive technological innovation.
Exactly.
It's a it's a freaking database, right? With hashtags and shit. I mean, it's just like so simple, but look at how powerful it's become. It's become the #1 medium for the president of the United States to communicate with the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's kind of how I'm seeing what we're doing here. It's not necessarily going to be a lot of lines of code, but it's going to be the right thing. And in a way, it's kind of like a fractal, because you zoom into spoke #1, food, and we've got that nailed. I mean, I'm telling you, I really think we've got that nailed. And I may well be the Elon Musk of food. You know, not to trump up my ego, but this has been my passion since I was 14 years old, living in Spain and seeing hunger and saying, holy shit.
So I've got a question for you. So I agree. I think that, you know, like the Twitter example, you know, real manifestation of an idea is rare, kind of, you know, because there's always conversations happening, and then, you know, it's really easy to talk and brainstorm all day, but then where does the rubber meet the road? And then when someone does, it goes, oh well, look, I did write some code. Here's a little demo, and it actually functions, and we can, like, you know, whoa, this is real now, or that's a real car, like, because that's what Tesla understood this. Elon Musk understood this. They knew the strategy in order to break the paradigm that was holding the electric car back. And everyone had this idea that the electric car was going to be like a golf cart, you know, it's going to look like a golf cart and kind of go like a golf cart. And, you know, why the fuck would you want a golf cart? Like, golf carts already were electric. You know, it's like, what's the big deal about electric cars? Everyone kind of had this, like, that was the kind of the view of electric cars, and that they just weren't happening, and no one was willing to push it forward. So Elon Musk realized their first car, it's got to fucking look hot. It's got to go fast. It's got to be like a Ferrari. It's got to get the world's attention. And it's going to be expensive, so only the millionaires will buy it, and all that, da, 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 da. So it's a big, like, whoa, where did this come from? Right? That was natural marketing.
It blasted into the mind.
Yeah, they weren't
right?
saying, here's our fancy TV commercial about the car that we're creating, or here's our concept car of the car you could have in 75 years. Isn't it beautiful? We have one. It might be available in 75 years from now. That's not what they did. They just quietly took the engineers, and they actually constructed and innovated and invented something that hadn't existed before. And then people could actually buy it, and people could see it driving around really fast, and it's red, and it's like, wow, that's an electric car. Are you kidding me? Mind blown. That's how they popped through. And now that was just step one of the strategy. So that's why I really wonder, you know, like, what is that thing? Not the idea. What is that thing that I can actually, like, where's that bowl? Like right now I'm hungry. When can I have someone come down, or like a robot or whatever it is, deliver my little hot steaming bowl of lentils right here?
No, very soon, Michael. And I'll tell you why. One of our other powerhouses who's not here at the moment, Deirdre, she's up in Alaska, and she is so good at fundraising. She's very politically connected up there in Alaska. Sounds like her whole family, whatever. Anyway, and so she's like, I can raise money for this, no problem. So we're getting all the pieces together. We haven't quite launched the Tesla yet, but we're so close, Michael. And when we do, it'll be a blast into the mind, not because it costs $150,000, but because it costs 5 cents. That's our cost to deliver this meal right to their doorstep, which is another part of it. You don't have to travel anywhere. I mean, a soup kitchen is a great place to get COVID, hepatitis B, and about 17 other infirmities, right? We deliver totally hygienic, full nutrition, cold stew. All you have to do is heat it up, or you can eat it cold if you prefer to eat it in your tent. And, you know, but we deliver it right to your doorstep, full nutrition, full spectrum, 100% plant-based, delivered to you, minuscule cost, right? Which is overwhelmed by our donations. It's going to be the success story of the century. It's going to take donut economics to a planetary scale. And it'll kick off an avalanche, and it's a story. So the parallels with Tesla are profound, right? Old internal combustion engines that required all kinds of lubricants and freaking complications, right, are tantamount to the old model. I mean, it's not like they didn't work. It worked. And in fact, it powered the economy for freaking decades.
Exactly.
The automobile, the grocery store, packaged food, convenience, and all this, it powered the economy. So they both had their place. And if it weren't for all that, we wouldn't be able to do what we're about to do now. So we piggybacked off of all kinds of great food engineering, in our case, automotive engineering in Tesla's case. They just piggybacked. They stood on the shoulders of giants, of decades of giants, from Detroit to Stuttgart to, South Korea, and freaking, created the miracle. That's what we're doing with food, because the reason we can buy lentils for 6.5 cents a pound is because of decades of brilliant agricultural engineering, tractor engineering, soils engineering, fertilizers, whatever the heck, I don't care what, whatever it was, right? So we're standing on the shoulders of those lentil giants.
Cool. Hey, I honestly am so hungry. I need to go.
No, Michael, you go. You're great. We'll take it from here. And feel free to come back anytime.
Cool.
At 5 o'clock, we've got Vegans of Color with a super cool speaker. You'll love this dude, Rowan.
Who is it? Oh,
Rowan, originally from Jamaica. The dude is incredibly studied, and his spirit just glows. Even if you just watch, hover in, but
okay.
I think you're going to want to jump in. Anyway, get some good food, and thank you so much, Michael. This has been super cool.
Thank you. All right,
man.
Have a great day. See you next week.
You see, I sold you on the stew just by talking about it.
I'm really
Boom, 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 boom. It's working. It's working. It's working. All righty. How you doing there, Marco?
Sorry, texting with my siblings that are losing their minds.
Oh, goodness.
Because all the help I've been giving them has apparently only been, what do you call it? Not help, but
support.
No, not support. It is enabling. I've enabled a situation where they expect that I'm going to pay their bills just because I have for so long helped, and because I haven't rubbed their face in it every time, they don't even think I've done it. They and refuse to sit down and look at documented evidence, because as long as they don't face the evidence, they can continue to play me as a villain right now. Very draining, and I don't want to whine. So that's you get the gist. And
I get it. I was just checking. You were
the
only one on camera, so that's why I picked on you.
I didn't notice that, but yeah, that's what I'm dealing with now. So I'm it's just horrible. I don't understand